and welcome to the program Between God and Us. Once again, I sit with Master Eric of the Untold Truth and special guest Pandit Parasram Maharaj. I know no stranger to anyone. And Pandit, once again, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be around, especially when I am able to learn some things from Master Eric, which I did not know. And he is saying he learns from me too, so we're sharing.
We both learn from each other.
Yeah.
And Omkar, we can't forget Omkar.
Yes.
And today's topic is a very interesting one. I'm sure you'll probably learn some things from as well, because the topic today is a hot one, especially in Trinidad. Blood sacrifice and blood puja. So, but before we get into that, I had someone ask me a question. Wanted me to ask you, the fans of the show, and they wanted to get your opinion on Patra reading because they asked me how you do your readings, and I told them you don't use a laptop or the Patra book for some readings. You told me you do for some, but you didn't when you did mine or people that I know.
No, I never used them. No.
So this person wanted to know what is the best type or what is the recommended type as per your opinion.
Well,
and Pandits as well, since
I'll
Pandit is here.
Because people know I do this. I'll let the Pandit answer this first and then I can explain after. But Pandit, what do you think of that?
Well, in the early times, first we have to remember, the book came after. All the books came afterwards. The thoughts and the messages were there long before. And if they were there before, it had to be coming through inspiration and through the meditation and the ability of the person to be able to get the information that they can be able to calculate within their minds and the hour in which the person would have come. Also, the type of questions they would have placed to the person who they are asking. And based on many of those things put together, the facts and the information would be flowing. And that's how it is actually done, through their meditation and through their inspiration and through some divine instinct that they might have developed over the course of time. It doesn't come just like that somebody will ask a question and you'll answer just like that. It has to come because of a development of inspiration and personality also, and your connection of character and everything with the divine form. Then that could happen.
That was beautifully said. Not because I do it, but how he explained it. Yes, Omkar, I don't know who asked, and, that's not important. If a spiritual leader has said it, well, then we'll talk about that too. But when you do, and Pandit, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm telling you my personal experience. When my guru taught me, Omkar, I went through severe 6-year penance. I mean, I lost my ex-wife, everything. It's either God or this. It was the path that I had to choose. Okay, it was my choice. Now, as you do these penances, now, what people don't understand, every year, the penance gets tougher. It doesn't get easier. This elevates you to, hopefully, to where you have that connection. And when I did your reading, I wasn't looking around the room. I wasn't looking at your body or even the people you know. I'm looking in your eyes. Now, your eyes, Pandit, are the gateway to your soul.
Yes.
And if you have the connection, it's not that we're mocking everything that you've done in your past, but the soul lets you know, Omkar, what needs to be said. what needs, what does the person need? What was the trauma? So why would you want to take or go to a psychologist and it takes him 6 months to get to the specific point when in 5 minutes you can go back to where they were 12 years old and say, oh, like this one that came. They didn't say nothing. You didn't either when you came. You don't say nothing. I said, oh my God, your uncle raped you when you were 12 years old. And you tried to tell your mother, but your mother wouldn't listen. And she said, keep your mouth shut because she don't want to tarnish the family name. Yeah. And then she said, if he did do it, you must have done something to entice him. So this trauma was critical in this woman as she grew up. And it was hard for her to get over it. And by going to that point, Omkar, now we can actually start to help the person to let go.
Yeah.
To show that time has passed. We cannot go through that door today. We can't go back to that time when you came into the door today. It's impossible. The time is gone.
It would be repeating
correct
trauma in life.
And if you don't get rid of the trauma, then something, if you try to hide it, something that comes up in your life is going to bring that feeling back up. And their problem was when she was married and it came time for relations. That memory kept coming back. Okay, but we've done that. And another one where, a girl, she was 15 years old. She came, she asked for help, and she didn't have an appointment. She come. And I looked at her, I said, oh my God, every morning you ask God for forgiveness for what you've done. She had an abortion. And she just broke down on the couch. And after we talked, do you know what she did? When she turned 18, she started, now she lives in a poor area, okay? And she's Black descent. And she opened up a clinic for unwedded pregnancies, teen pregnancies. So look how a negative turned into a positive to where she's helping people too. So yes, Omkar, it's not that whoever can do that is better than anyone else. That's not true. Number two, if a spiritual leader did bring this topic up, and I don't know, maybe I've heard that they were kind of negative about it, telling people don't go, but then he doesn't realize where all the teachings came from in the first place. I'm not saying I'm a Rishi or a Muni.
Even what the Rishis and Munis have said and how they had been able to get this information, then are we saying that that is not real? It is only when a book is produced, but where did the book come from?
That's what I kept trying to think.
Was the book there first, or was the information that was placed in the book was there first?
And then, should that be mentioned during a kata?
Well, in the course of time, when you're doing a discourse, remember, you have invited all the deities to sit there. That is number one. And they are listening to the glories of God. And if we are giving the information about the glories of God, which the deities will be pleased with and will bless the people and the person who is giving the discourse to, and you are bringing something that doesn't actually belong to the information, or doesn't fit in any way into the information that is supposed to be given, how could that please the deities? Are they going to be pleased or are they going to be displeased? Will it be fruitful for you who are listening, or will it be negative for you because it is taking your mind outside of what you are listening to? These are things that we have to pay attention to and to know where the divine truth is important. And when the scriptures are telling us or giving us information, we must seek the information properly and understand outside of what is being told in the scriptures, if it is helping us to understand our life better and making us a better being. It might have some impression, but if it is indirectly criticizing somebody, remember, Tagore says, "Grant me, O Master, by thy grace, to follow all good and pure, to be contented with simple things, to use others not as means but ends, to speak no ill of others," because when we speak ill of anybody, actually you're taking up their load. So we don't want to take up anybody's load, but we are just clarifying a point which was asked as a question and making it clear that scriptures are that which is telling us and giving us information to improve ourselves and to make us better beings. Taking the knowledge and making the life a chaos or causing conflicts, that is not what is required. It is for the upliftment of humanity and the upliftment of all ourselves.
So, in a nutshell, Omkar, and there's going to be people in the future too, Pandit, that's going to mention things like this. It's kind of sad. I feel sorry. And if they need clarification or even help with something that they have, me and the Pandit would be glad to sit down with them and talk and explain. So, there should never be any animosity towards anything. It's called clarification. Okay? Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, like I said,
it's for the viewer.
It was a request by somebody to ask the question on the show. So
okay, yeah. No problem.
But those are questions that actually came long, long before, and it was been there for some time. But perhaps it has been ignited somehow again, so that the person would have perhaps asked me.
Right. So remember, long, long time ago, there were no computers.
No.
So they had to do it the normal way. So some people disagree with computers too. Because remember, we talked about this on previous shows. The magnetic field, the magnetic north, has shifted.
Yeah.
Right? And the software does not recalculate itself to the actual rotation of the magnetic north. And so far it's went 28 degrees. So there's a calculation you have to do. And you would have to put in the calculation to offset that 28 degrees. So, but a book is going to stay pretty consistent. Okay, but you still got to recalculate from the book.
And it depends on the state where the book is written and the degrees and seconds.
Correct.
In which it is based on. You have to do the calculation with that and do minus and plus.
See, there's a science to it, Omkar. So, laptops are making it convenient. But the question is, could it be off? And the answer is definitely yes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, because the Bhavani Sankar Patra has about 9+ hours, whereas Kashika has almost 12 hours. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the state to where it is written.
And then with that, then you have
to do adjustment.
The adjustment to the magnetic north from true north. And there's a lot to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first of all, and I didn't do it, Omkar, I want to say Sitaram, Assalamu Alaikum, Sai Ram, and good evening, everyone. So, Pandit, we brought you back on, and
thank you.
We're going to, because I get a lot of insight from you too. And it gives a different perspective a lot of times of what we're discussing. So today, a lot of people has come and they ask about, they know the time is coming up in January to give Sankhya Baba his offerings. Okay, then you have different time periods, for Munish Prem and Kalbairo and Mother Kali and all them. There's different time periods.
Yes, wait, in January, what offer? That's the one where you light a cigarette and...
Right, for Sankhya Baba.
Yeah.
The land master of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is his time period.
D Baba, is the same one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people call him the D.
Yeah.
Right? But his proper name is Sankhya Baba.
Yeah.
Okay? So that time period's coming up. So a lot of people, Pundit, has started getting with me because we did this program 11 months ago.
Okay.
But some people that's coming on board now, they haven't seen the one 11 months ago. So they wanted more clarification on blood puja, sada, and what are the consequences if you quit one and go to the other without proper chanting the bloodline, the ancestral bloodline. Okay, so we're going to go into all of this. And then, because I'm going to give scenarios of problems that has occurred in the past and is occurring today and will occur in the future.
Yeah.
If people don't advise or go by what we're trying to advise. Mm-hmm. Now again, we're only given the knowledge, Omkar. We're not here to say you should not do this, you should only do this. That's not what we're doing today. So, Pundit, years ago, let's go back about 5 generations ago, and when the Indian population was coming over to Trinidad. And then a lot of them worked the canes, the rice, all of these things. And it was custom to a huge percentage of them, maybe not all, of where they came from in India, that they would give Sankhya Baba his offerings. Mm-hmm. Okay, whether it was sada or whether it was falcock. And that was for the growth of the crops, protection, and because he's the land master of the land. So would it be safely said that a large percentage of the Indian Trinidadians, that there was maybe an ancestral bloodline of doing blood prayers in their lineage?
Well, from my experience and my learning, and with the experience that I had with people communicating with me, some people taught that the Pandit who is the vegetarian can be able to do the ceremonies with the blood sacrifice too. But that was never our custom, and it was custom. It's not like it is not written in the book, because in the Devi Mahapuran, which is one of the texts that we have right here, it is written there in page 272, I suppose.
No, 227.
227.
Paragraph 6.
And the verse is 32. In verse 32 it says, "Those who are the meat eaters offer the meat." And they specify what kind of meat, like the goat and the wild boar and so on. And in their sacrifice also, they offer fish in the oven. Whereas in the vegetarians, you don't have that, because it is actually simple form of food sacrifice. In Garu Puran, also, in the ancestral worship you have, where it is written that the life of a green is 1 year, because after 1 year it may grow, but it may not bear. So the life of the green is 1 year, and is less sacrifice to be done for the life of a green. Whereas the life of a bird or an animal or anything else, it is much more sacrifice that you have to make accordingly for it. And then when you give something which is like sacrificing a life to save one life, you're talking about many, many generations continuing to do the same thing.
Correct.
For the sake of one person. And if that is what we are looking at, and coming down the way, some people want to change. Now, if you want to change something, you have to close. You cannot ride in two boats. You have to come off from one boat and then go into the next. And you have to come off properly. You can't leave one foot still there and you want to jump in the next one. You might slip off. So you have to be careful in that. That's why you need somebody who is experienced enough in that field to direct you accordingly how to find out what to do and how to do and so on. And those are the things that are important to know. Then you can do the shanti of it after you've been told what to do about it. And then you can go to the simple way of doing the sada form of worship.
So let's clarify this a little bit, Pandit. I agree with you 100%. Now, what you were stating, which may not have been too clear, is you're saying there could be a debt
Yes,
that has
something
to
that,
be paid
yes,
from the initial
yeah,
blood sacrifice if it was like to save a life.
yes,
And I know a lot of people's been coming to me, Omkar, where they've been offered, their family offered hog puja, and that's the mother promissory. So now, Pandit, during the Shanti Puja, there's two parts. Okay? So Omkar, you have the invocation, okay, which normally pundits would do that during the
Yes.
puja. And once you give that and give your offerings and everything, then it switches over to a tantric side. And this is where the pundits are not trained. I'm not saying they don't know, they're just not trained. Okay? And a lot of them hesitate to do this. Now, I've done it for them. So I'd let the pundit do the first part, and then I would come in and do the second part. Why? If you're not trained, Omkar, and pundit, correct me if I'm wrong, and the conductor, whoever's doing the puja, and you make a mistake on that tantric side, there's a backlash.
yeah,
And a lot of people stay away from that because you got to be very precise. You got to be very specific. So this is where I was saying in our show we did last year is that technically myself, pundit, other pundits, Swami, brahmachariats, whoever, don't have the authority to say that you can get or do a shanti of the bloodline. Okay? So let me clarify this a little more. Pundit, if you use the 1,000-year patra or anything,
yeah.
would that tell you why the ancestors 5 generations ago started the puja?
No, because the patra is a calendar in which it gives you information of time, latitude, longitude, and based on things like that, it will tell you about the calculation. It is not going to tell you that the ancestors did this or whatever. Because some people, although some did to save life, some also did it to suppress others and also to progress in their own kind of business ways. Mm-hmm. And then you have negativities that comes in there, because when there is a particular desire that you do something for, remember Lord Krishna says in Gita, chapter 17, the austerities that are done with a particular desire, it may be fulfilled, but remember, it's only for a short time. So then you have to repeat it again. And then when you keep repeating several times, how many lives you are sacrificing for your own interests, and how are you going to repay the debt for all these things that you're doing? So that is one set of load that you're placing. Now, the continued of that, if it continues in the generation coming down the line, how many generations are paying for the sacrifice of one person, and what quantity of tapasya or penance you have to do the shanti of that? That is another thing. So I will not be able to tell that. Perhaps you might be able to put some light on that part.
No, I can, but what I was trying to get across is the patra would not give the proper information.
Yes, it wouldn't give the proper
for the person, the spiritual leader, to say, yes, we can shanti. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, also, what if this is the fifth generation as an analogy?
Yeah.
What if this generation, not knowingly, still owes to pay off that debt from the past? You understand?
Yeah.
And could there be, directly or indirectly, situations occur in your life to give you the hint that you may need to check on this?
Yeah.
You may need to look at, is there something owed? Now, let me give you an example, Pundit. I went to a funeral. Now, these spiritual people that was talking about the reading, they're even going to go on this too, so be prepared. But I was at the funeral, and it was a Hindu funeral, and when the Pundit got done, and they were getting ready to move the body into the hearse to go to the cremation site, before it left the stand, I just happened to look up. And when I looked up, I said, oh my God, Mother Parmeshwari was there. Now, Pundit, you know what that means. If Mother Parmeshwari is standing over the body, there's something owed. Okay? Now, so I looked at, this was the father. He had 4 sons. And the 4 sons was doing the ceremony with another person. And so when that part got done, I looked at the oldest son and I said, hey, when you're done with the bandara, everything's complete, we need to talk. He goes, no, man, what is it? What is it that you need to talk about? I said, no, after the bandara. Because Pandit, I didn't want to get a mindset or anything changed off of that. I said, no, just call me when everything is done. He says, no, man, known you a long time. Just talk straight. What is it? So I told him. And I said, you need to come with your 3 brothers, and we need to look at getting permission and chanting the ancestral bloodline. He laughed. He said, I believe in Sai Baba. I said, no, that's fantastic. I think Sai Baba was a great person, you know. But I said, that has nothing to do with the ancestral bloodline. He said, I don't believe in that. Do you know in 42 days, Pandit, he was dead? The second one I tried talking to, he didn't listen either. 3 of the brothers died within 7 months. The 4th brother started running to us. We got permission. He's fine. Now, then some people come to me and say, why is it that she took life? Why are they punishing us? And I said, they're not punishing you. Did you fulfill your agreement? Now, I always tell people, the deities don't punish, but certain deities have a different personality than the other ones. Some are more strict than the other ones. What if their ancestors did save a life by doing hog puja? And they did admit that they knew not their father, but the father before, the grandfather. They would do it secretly.
Okay.
And give that offering. You just don't bring the kids around and things like that. You know, all I'm trying to say is we have to clarify, get the proper permission. So you asked me before the show,
Yeah.
well, where do you get the permission? Okay. Now that's a good question. Why, Omkar? If man has no way, maybe besides through meditation, to know when did it start, why did it start, what was the reason, okay? The only thing you could go to is in front of a real 100% manifestation of the deity. Not the ones that flip around, go on the ground. No, you're talking solid. They're talking the deity's language. They are actually fluent in any language. Okay? Ask your question. Now, out of doing about 5,000 of these, there's been only 3 times, Omkar, only 3, out of a little over 5,000, where the deity said no. 1 or 2 was owed. You understand what I'm saying? The rest of them, they all got permission. Oh, so evidently that debt was cleared off. Okay? But you understand where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add with what I'm bringing up?
Not at the moment, but I'll be thinking about all that you said in the process. Because remember, we not rehearse anything.
Okay.
So
Now, once you get permission, then you can set the date to do the blood puja. Now, what happened in the past, Pundit, and people have to be clarified, a lot of people didn't know this. So the father or the grandfather, he knew that his kids or their kids wouldn't want to carry this on.
okay.
This wouldn't be their forte. Okay? So they just stopped it. They didn't shanty it.
Okay.
Now, like you said, now you have 2 boats.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't have 2 boats.
No.
You can only have 1.
Yeah.
Okay? So now, if people are listening now, and you know that maybe your father or grandfather did it, then if you know you don't want to do it and they have passed on, it is your responsibility to then get a proper shanty done with the proper permission for the rest of the generations to follow.
Yes.
So you're clear.
Yeah.
There couldn't be no negative effect once it is done clear. Then, Omkar, once you are actually cleared of the blood ancestral line, and you wish to give the masters or Ma or Permissary or whoever, Galbiro, an offering, you can do it sada. Then there are proper sada ways to give your offering. But are there any questions so far?
Yeah, the one thing that might be as a question, not only to myself, but perhaps other people too, is that if they want to conclude that and not to do anything else, let's say they, like the guy said, he believes in Sai Baba, right? So he is going fully into that. So if he chanted this completely, he can go fully into his Sai Baba devotion without having to go back to any of these? Or does he still have to actually perform some type of ceremony for Parameshwari or?
No. Once you've totally shantied the actual bloodline, it would be the individual's choice.
Yes.
Whether they would want to continue but sada, or they could just stop. Period.
Okay.
Because one, the debt has been fulfilled.
Yes.
Okay, so if you did not complete, okay, why would there be consequence? If the debt was settled and you have ended it properly.
So in other words, if he wants to give just as a thanks for
He could do
sada
that.
way,
He could do that.
but not to commit himself,
Correct.
right? That the other generations will have to face with the consequences similar.
Correct.
So that is important to know.
Right. Sada, you are not bound. Blood prayers, you are bound for a certain time. Now, again, it depends what the ancestors started it with,
Yes.
what the reason for, okay, and then, like a pacha, it's calculated,
Yes.
okay, but not really in our
Yes.
realm. It's them.
Yes.
They're going to calculate how many generations are going to be liable to fulfill that debt. It's almost like in the States, right?
Taxes.
Taxes or a debt with the bank.
Yes.
So husband and wife.
IMF.
So,
IMF actually shows the actual way because it's many generations keep paying off for that.
right, of a debt. And once you pay off the debt, they're silent.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So some people say, well, they did it, but I didn't do it. Why should I pay the debt?
Yes.
But you do.
Yes.
Okay? So now, another thing I want to bring up, Omkar, and I've had, I would say in the last 2 months, at least 25 families come. And they were having problems at home, you know, with demonic. Some of them wasn't demonic, it was sickness, okay, an elderly person, and it also came down to children, that they were terminal, right? And they come, and I said, so why do you want to come and see me? And they explained the whole situation, and they said people come from Shakti temples, and I'm not going to name them because that's not professional. And when they walked the place, they said, the only way that you can get this done and let it be over, you have to do blood. And none of their ancestors did blood. So they're like, why would I have to do blood? Is there another way of doing it? So first of all, that shows me, Pundit, you know how people have one path
Yes.
and they stay on that one path and they don't try to learn the other paths,
Yes.
that without that knowledge, you might mislead
Yeah.
those people.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then you're imposing your system or your way on them.
Correct. So they asked me, is there a way to stop this? I said, for one, in each situation, the solution was a little different. But I told them, there are ways doing sadha that will give you the same results, but it's the ancient pujas. Ancient, not what they're doing now.
Uh-huh.
Okay? And when you do them, now you are not bound.
Okay, that means you don't make a promise that you're going to continue. to
Correct.
do this. Yes.
Now, a lot of people are under the false impression that when you do a blood sacrifice, it's all about the blood. Do you know, Pundit? It has nothing to do with the blood. It is the soul that you're releasing back to them. It's all about the soul. But somehow the blood prayers got all mixed up and it's concentrated on the blood and not the soul. Okay? So I need people that if you do this worship, which I'm not against because I understand the importance of it, if you want to go that way. I'm not condemning it. I think if that's good for them, it does work. And a lot of times, in a lot of cases. But you should not, and you just said it, you should not put across to be like an influence to people or try to alter their decisions with the way you think it should be done. Now, my guru always taught me when people come to see you, you just don't give them a solution. You have option A, option B, sometimes an option C, and they're all productive.
Yeah.
But it's up to the individual
To select.
to select. We cannot influence our personality into the solution. Am I correct or not?
You're correct in that sense, but there's a situation like I am put in that sometimes.
Okay.
We count on you. You tell us what to do. So now you in the fix.
Okay, hold on. But this is what I was just saying. If you have, and Pandit, you know this, that's why I look up to you. You have many years, and Omkar looks too. You have many years of experience. Now, how you do things and how the effects of what you do isn't just by knowledge.
Yeah.
It's also by experience as you're going through it. You may tweak a couple things that you may not have done before, or you may want to learn something. All I'm trying to say, that's why I said 2 shows ago, Omkar, it would be fantastic here in Trinidad. We could set the stage and be the pilot of Hinduism, Christianity, and Muslim. If we all got together on a network and everybody knows each other's specialties. And when a case comes to you like that, and you're like, I have an idea, but how many times have I called you to, and I run something by you, and you give your opinion? A network.
Yeah.
And if we had a network of people, get rid of the stupid ego and the pride.
Yes.
Okay, it's all about helping
Yes.
humanity. And it's all about serving God, correct?
Yes.
So if we put the egos aside and we just have the numbers, just the numbers, he could say, okay, let me just make a quick call. And when you get the call, you give your advice, you both talk about it and say, yeah, this looks like the best way. Or you may need to get a third one involved. It depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Why can't we do that, Pandit?
Because it needs a team to get together and everything has to work Everything has to work with a team, and the team has to set the goal right. And once they set the goal right, it is going to happen. But everything takes time. And remember, even when the Bhagwan has succumbed, he has his team to work with. And maybe we are a team that is forming up, and maybe we have the magnetism somewhere that are going to cause others to just get in the group. And we might be able to manifest something like that.
Well, what I'm starting already, which I got a meeting today. I'm going. I'm not waiting on the rest of the pundits. I have a meeting today with the Muslims. I'm going to start getting them on board because sometimes Muslims come.
Yeah.
Okay? So we need to have that expertise.
Yes.
Okay? And I'm going to get the Catholic priests. I'm going to get the preachers. And it's not that we're changing or trying to change their belief. We're here for support. Because you know why? Sometimes Hindus, they get confused. They don't understand Hinduism. So they want to change to go to Christianity or Muslim. Well, there, you know, Pundit, if you were born into a lineage,
Yes.
and you want to change,
You have to close it off.
you have to close that door.
Yeah.
And the only way to close that door is to do a proper shanty.
Yeah.
Whether it is blood ancestral line
Yeah.
or not. Now, the shanty would change
Yes.
according to if you got to do the tantric side to end the blood and XYZ. But you have to end it. Now, all the Christians watching today, I'm also a licensed ordained minister. And I did also take an oath. And I have to tell the facts today that people are being misled. Now, what I mean by that, they tell people, yeah, come across. And you have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And you have to get baptized.
Yeah.
Once you get baptized, your slate's clean. Okay? Now, one, I think it's great if they want to go across or stay. Two, the preachers should not give false impressions on what the baptism is about. Now, I'm going to get into this a little bit, Omkar, because they're misleading people, especially with the bloodline, the blood prayers. So I asked a preacher the other day, I said, Reverend, explain to me how getting baptized wipes out the family bloodline or the lineage that you're born into. He said, well, Jesus takes it away. I said, how? Jesus came into the world to die for our sins. Our sins. Okay? That has nothing to do with ending that bloodline. So there are procedures that needs to be done to end. I didn't want to say shanty in front of the preacher because he wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
To end peacefully and properly the bloodline that you were born into.
Okay.
And he said, you know, he never knew that. And I said, didn't he come for our sins?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yes. I said, did they mention anything else that he came for? So what I'm trying to say, if there's Christians watching and you know that your life is not right, that the males are being affected, just seek advice from someone that has the knowledge, and they just may need to end it, especially if there was blood puja involved.
Yeah.
Okay, you just can't erase blood prayers just so. It's not that easy. And once you get the permission, yes. But do you have any questions, Omkar? You've been very quiet today.
No, I'm listening.
No questions. Okay. So now let me go into this. I think we got the point across about needing to shanty. Mm-hmm. What happens if you don't shanty? Mm-hmm. Can you go to another belief without shantying? No.
No.
Okay. Now, let's say you're going to do blood puja. Now, here's another thing that my guru, he specifically taught me everything, hopefully. I'm still learning, but what he knew of doing blood puja and what are the right things, what is the protocol, what is X. Now, Pandit, if you're going to do a blood sacrifice,
Yeah.
you have to select an animal.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to select an animal, it says they need to be flawless as possible. Hardly no defects or being lame or anything like this.
Yes.
It has to be a very well-kept, good animal. Now, I did witness a family in Omkar. I was like, when are these people going to learn? They didn't learn. So what happened? They wanted to do hog puja. So they went to Waller Field to get the hog. But it's for Mother Permissary. They put the hog in the trunk, but left it open with a rope. So it got air and everything, and they were bringing it back. But there was a defect on it. The leg was cut. You know, by the time they got there, the hog dead. So they got mad. They went back and told the guy, you sold me a bad hog, a sick hog. He said, no, that hog was not sick. And he says, go pick another one. So they had to pay for another one. They checked the hog out. Under the hoof, there was a defect. They put the hog the same way, with the space open, carried him back. Hog dead.
That's true.
That's 2. Now, you know how much money that is? Okay. So finally, they got this older man to go with them. The man thoroughly checked every aspect of that animal and put it into the trunk, and it lived. No defect. Okay. Now, once they bring the hog back, or the goat, or the boar, or the chicken, you understand? Because it specifically talked about in the scripture about boars and goats.
Yes.
Okay? That's the highest offering you could give. Now, when you get that animal, you have to keep them separate from all other animals on the farm or wherever it's being done. So, now, if you're giving the blood prayers to a Devi, 9 days prior to that sacrifice, remember we were talking about 9 and 5.
Yes.
So if it was a Baal you're giving it to, it'd be 5 days prior that you bring the animal into that place. Now, every day leading up to the prayers, you have to bathe that animal, feed that animal with your hands, okay? Garland the animal, tiki the animal, and do incense around the animal every day. Now, a lot of people say, what? No, you just do it on the last day. No, you have to do it every day consecutive leading up to that. God help you if you let that animal go and try to breed with something else because he's a ram goat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very nice. So people want to, I mean, I've seen it, to where people say, well, let's breed him real quick before we use him for sacrifice. You cannot do that. You understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. And does that make sense in your theory?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's say they do the sacrifice. Now, eventually they will offer the meat. They will offer what drink, whether it's rum, whatever, or puncheon, and a smoke or whatever. It depends who they're giving the offering to. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem, Pundit. Is any type of prayers, so let's forget it's just blood.
Yeah.
But any type of prayers, should we turn a prayers into a lime?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason is
Because it's written here in the Devi Purana.
Well, I was going to get to that, but go ahead.
That if it is offered for the Devi or the deity that it is offered for, and it is offered like that, it may be partaked of as prasad. And it is not supposed to be a feast that you make out of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get into that. We got 4 minutes. So more or less what I'm supposed to, but I have so much to say, but I don't want to go on a part 2. You see them, they say because it's parasad, because you offered it to the Devi, that you're allowed to drink the whole puncheon rum, or you're allowed to do XYZ. The old timers, when I learned from them, they said just take a little cap, partake of it, that's it.
Well, there is a saying also that prasad should not be taken in excess, because if you take little bit, it sends you to the heavens. If you take too much,
you're going down.
It's going to bring you back right here.
Well, what I'm saying, down. You're not going to the heavens.
You come back.
So what I'm saying, Omkar, there's a lot of things being done that should not be done. That rest of that offering is supposed to go back on that Bedi and stay with them. Okay? So I hope this show kind of helped somebody that had, but if they have any other questions that we didn't cover, then I want them to contact you or me and we could get back with each other. Okay. Please send your questions. Number 2, if anyone viewing wants to come to a live program, and you will have a mic in the audience, but we won't put your face on TV if you don't want to. You could just talk on the mic, give us your questions direct right there, and we will attempt to change it. So please WhatsApp or email, which you'll see at the bottom of the screen, the number, and let us know if you want to participate. And 2 shows from now, we're going to give the date. Okay? So Omkar, it's been great to be with you. Pundit, thank you as always.
Thank you too.
And everyone, you have a fantastic week. And again, if you have any questions on what we just talked about, please send in your questions and we will answer them accordingly. You have a great day. Sitaram. Satisfy